Welcome everyone to Raw Live with your host Rohit Basi. Today, I have a wonderful guest on the show. I have known him for, I think it's almost 3 years now. It's been 3 years. So let me tell you about our guest. Our guest on Raw Live is a professional speaker and founder of Ideas and Inspiration, an initiative to move people towards self-development and positive change through inspirational and educational content. We'll be talking about it. It's an amazing initiative which our guest has started a number of years ago. Over the last 2 years, the Ideas and Inspiration YouTube channel has grown to attract over 200,000 subscribers globally, with videos on the channel being viewed over 5 million times. Let us welcome to the show the legendary Jit Puru. Woohoo! Woo!
Thanks for the wonderful introduction, Rohit. I don't think I deserve such a wonderful introduction. Thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure to have a chat with you.
It is. So I believe it was last year I did an interview with you when I first started Raw, and we were talking about success. And there was a lot of things.
We were in Singapore sitting beside the river,
Yeah, and ideally I wanted to do Raw Live in a similar format. Obviously, we can't do that. And it was a very interesting chat because we're talking about success and we're talking about how people define themselves as failures or rejection. And this is an amazing awakening time for all of us, every single individual. And the topic which you decided to talk about was adapting to change consciously. Now, before we go into the topic, for our listeners, just a brief intro about yourself. Who are you? How did you get to this point? Give us that 2-3 minutes introduction to yourself.
Well, man, what can I say more than what you have already said in the introduction itself? Well, I've been speaking for the last 4 to 5 years. I've been speaking on the topic of leadership, on success, on, of course, adapting to change. That's one of the key topics that I've spoken about. I've written a book. I've got a book out called You Deserve Happiness. It is a self-help book. It's a passion project when I first started out, because books changed my life, put me on the path that I am at today. So, always been a goal to write a book to help other people who may be in the same situation as what I was going through. And then eventually, about 2 years ago, was when I started Ideas and Inspiration, again, looking at different ways to empower people. So that's always been a mission close to my heart. Looking at different ways to help people, whether it's to get through change, whether it's to get through challenge, whether it's just to give them that boost of inspiration or that empowerment for them to, move forward towards achieving their goals. So Ideas and Inspiration started 2 years ago. We run live events with that, where we get thought leaders to come, take stage, share 15-minute talks with an inspiring idea or an inspirational message that they want to share to the audience. Nobody pays to be in that program. No one pays to attend the program. No one gets paid to speak. So it's a pure community empowerment event. All right. So of course, when we did that, I also started asking, how else can we reach more people? Because when I run a live event here in Singapore, I get about 200 people in attendance. All right. That's great. But the population of the world is 7 billion people. How do I go beyond the 200 people? The 200 people in attendance are very important to me, because everyone who is there is important to me. But we are also getting great people with great messages to share. And the question always in the back of my head was, how do I reach more people with the message? All right. And that's when YouTube was a viable option. For me, I felt that it's a great way to reach more people. So, we get all talks professionally recorded. We get them edited, put it up on YouTube as a free resource for anyone from all over the world to watch, from all walks of life. As long as you need something inspirational, something motivational, something with a great idea that you can act upon, chances are you'll find that on the Ideas and Inspiration channel. So we put that up on the channel, and within a year and a half, that channel started getting a lot of traction. Our live events were still going on well, but the channel got a lot of traction. And, right now, it's been 2 years since Ideas and Inspiration started. And as you mentioned earlier, the channel is sitting on about 230,000 subscribers worldwide. It just took off in the last 8 months. And that's been a good sign. It's been a really good sign. And to know that people all over the world are benefiting from the content, are enjoying the content, that is a sign that, we're on the right path. And I can continue doing more of what I'm already doing. So I hope that was short enough for you as an introduction.
That was great, because one of the things I really love about Ideas and Inspiration is it is not about speakers and trainers or personal development people. It is people from all walks of life who have that idea, or they want to inspire someone in their own different way, how they have seen their reality, what's panned out for them.
Exactly, right. Because at the end of the day, it's all about an idea.
Yep.
An idea can spark change, no matter how small we think an idea is. But ideas have started wars. Ideas have brought about peace. Ideas have started revolutions. Ideas have changed industries. And if you were to look back on the history of humanity itself, it was never the big ideas that made the biggest change. It is often the small ideas that then grew to become big ideas. So ideas can change lives, even at the individual level. And I think that's what I set out to do from the very beginning with Ideas and Inspiration, to create this platform where we can share ideas. And it's never about getting professional speakers or getting professional trainers, because the reality is everyone has a great idea.
Very true.
And
very
we
true.
get the people with the best ideas.
And this is where your topic it seems very interesting. Adapting to change consciously. So before we go into this, is when you say consciously, what does that really actually mean?
Okay, that's a great question. Because if you were to look at change itself, right? Okay, the word change simply means something becomes different. Something becomes different from what it previously was. And change is a constant, meaning change is always happening around us, whether we like it or not. Change is happening to us. We are changing from second to second, through our experience, to our knowledge, and change is there, whether we like it or not. Why adapting to change consciously is because the word conscious itself simply means we are aware of what is happening around us. And conscious also means to act or feel about something deliberately, And whenever change is happening, it will affect us, and we will change with change, whether we like it or not. Okay, we will change with change, right? We can resist change. We can go to say that we don't want change. We want things to go back to how they used to be. But eventually, with time, we will have to change to keep up with times. So the question really now becomes is this: are we changing without knowing that we are changing? Or are we changing deliberately? Meaning, are we changing consciously? Are we aware of what the change is? Are we aware of the pros and cons of the change? Are we aware if we even have a choice in terms of resisting the change or keeping up with the change? Then are we aware of what is needed to sync up with change? Hey, if we're going to get on board with change, if we're going to adapt with change, do we have the necessary skills? Do we have the necessary resources? Do we have the right people around us? Do we have the support that we need to adapt to change consciously, to adapt to change deliberately? Because the moment we adapt to change consciously, what that means is this: we are no longer left at the mercy of time. Okay, and when I say at the mercy of time, it goes back to what I said earlier, where whether we like it or not, we will change with time. When the world around us change, and when the majority of things around us change, we will change even if we don't realize it. But when we do it consciously, what happens is that we can now set some of the terms to how we want it to be.
Okay.
Right? To move at change at a pace that we would like to move with a solid plan, with a solid foundation, so that we sync up with change faster. And of course, then eventually we can lead change.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what adapting to change consciously means. So consciously means to be aware of what is going on around us, what is going on to us, and to act or feel deliberately over something. That means to act or feel something, to act upon the change deliberately.
Okay. So this is great when things are going wonderful.
Yep.
And when situations arrive where you're forced to change, could we, in that moment of where we're being forced to change, be conscious when that's happening to us?
What? Okay, maybe you could repeat that again.
Okay, so I'll give an example. Let's say, when I say forced change, so I had a guest earlier on where he had an accident. Steve Dowd, wonderful individual. He had an accident and he got paralyzed. So he was forced into a change. Now, if someone, and that's a very extreme example of forced change. Now, forced change could be also in what's happening with the current situation, with the awakening of the virus for many of us. In that situation, we're being forced to change. Can we get conscious about what's happening around us?
Of course. You see, whether I like it or not, we are conscious about things. It's just whether we choose to ignore what's going on. You know, whether we choose to not see what is going on and act from a position of a victim. You know, and this is where it comes back to our mode of thinking. You see, there are two ways of thinking that we normally have when we approach change or challenge. Okay, we either approach it from the perspective of a victim or from the perspective of a solution finder. Right? Either way, we are aware that something is forcing us to step out of our comfort zone. Hence, we know that, hey, you know what, this isn't what I want. I like things to be how it wants to be. Whenever change is taking place, it is forcing us out of the comfort zone. Change is never easy simply because none of us like to be out of our comfort zone. You know, some of us do consciously because we know the value of stepping out of the comfort zone to learn something new, to acquire new skills, you know, to go beyond the known horizon, so to say. But a lot of us, on the other hand, like the status quo. We like how things are. So whenever we are feeling a little bit uncomfortable, we know change is taking place. Now the question becomes, how are we approaching that change? Are we approaching it from a victim's mentality, or are we approaching it from the mentality of a solution finder? And how do we know where do we stand? It is often through how we respond to change initially. Are we asking questions such as, why me? Why is this happening to me? It's not fair. It's not my fault. You know, things should be before. Things were going good. You know, who can I blame for this? Is it the government? Is it the economy? Is it the virus? You know, I need someone to blame. So this is all putting us in that position where we are just looking at this change as a villain, you know, or as an external party that is disrupting our way of life. But the more questions we ask that leads us towards being the victim of change, what we will start to realize then also is this, you know, nothing is changing for the better in terms of our results, because we are stuck. We are stuck in this position where we are just focused on the change that is happening to us and how it is affecting our life. But we are not looking into how can we grow beyond. How can we sync up? How can we now lead that change? How can we adapt to it? How do we take back control of life? You know, if we can take back control in life. I mean, the reality is this, I don't think we can ever have 100% control of life, because life is more than us. For those who ever feel that, you know what, we can control life 100%, I think there's a lot more to life to learn about then. You know, There's so many different aspects to life, but we do what we can, we control what we can. And a lot of times what we can control best is ourselves, how we choose to think, how we choose to feel, how we choose to act.
Okay.
So in that point of time, when we might be feeling life is unfair, this is not our fault, why did this happen to me? The best thing to do is to ask a different question. And that question could be in the form of, what must I do next? That's a simple question to ask. What must I do next? Okay, I'm aware that I'm unhappy at this point of time.
Yep.
I'm aware that I'm feeling like I'm a victim of circumstances. But hey, what can I do next? Because the moment we ask this alternative question of what must I do next, what we're doing is we're also shifting our perspectives. We are consciously shifting our perspective from being a victim towards being a solution finder. Because it's like changing of the tracks for a train track. You know, the train may be moving in one direction, but the moment we ask this question, what must I do next, that tracks change. And now the train is forced to go in a different direction, and our mind is forced to go in a different direction, where we start looking into solutions. Yes, COVID has hit. Okay, it has disrupted how I do business. What must I do next? And that forces me to think about the future and not be stuck at the past or the present. Okay, so the past is important. It teaches us lessons. The present is important because it tells us where we are, but we must start also looking at what's in front of us. That is the reason why there's this great analogy where about driving a car. If you know how to drive a car, you know, you will know this example where if we are sitting in a car, what we see in front of us is the windscreen. It's nice and big, the windscreen, but above the windscreen, there's always the rear view mirror.
Yes.
It's smaller. Okay. The rear view mirror shows us what's behind us and what has passed. The windscreen shows us what's in front of us. The windscreen is always bigger than the rear view mirror. You know, because we should be looking at what's in front of us while time to time looking at what has passed. Can you imagine driving a car with 100% of your focus and attention parked on the rear view mirror? That means you're driving forward, but just looking at what's behind. What would happen to that car? And what will happen to you? You know,
you'll have an accident.
Yeah, you'll end up in a ditch. You know, you might end up in a position far worse than where you were.
Absolutely.
You know? And that is why it's you need to know what has happened, because it teaches us lessons as humanity itself. If we as human beings, if we want to move forward in life, if we want a better life, not just for ourselves, but for every one of us, we need to know where we have come from. You know, we need to study history. We need to know the history of humanity. Where did we come from? What did we evolve from? How did we grow into the society that we are at today? You know, what was the good? What was the bad? You know, and we've got to look at that without bias in totality, because only with a clear understanding of the past can we then decide what we want to do for the future. A lot of times, I think we are not very clear of our past.
Yep.
And that's why the future gets a little cloudy. Right? But if we get stuck in the past, we also don't move forward. All right. So adapting to change consciously, in my opinion, always starts with asking the right questions, because all learning only begins with self-awareness. And to be conscious means to be aware. Right. And adapting to change consciously means ask the right question. And the first question to ask in the face of change, in the face of challenge, is not why did this happen to me? You know, whose fault is it? I mean, these questions will surface naturally, but at that point of time, we've got to ask that alternative question: what must I do next? That will shift us back on track.
Okay, so at that point, I'm going to have an inspired drink.
You know what? You've prompted me to have a drink as well.
For those who are wondering why I'm having this is a gift by Jit Puru. When I met him last time I was in Singapore, that was over a year ago. So inspiring away. Thank you so much.
Oh, most welcome, buddy.
Okay. So my next question is, okay, because you've answered some of the things, which is like, I was going to ask you about, is this a fashion and a fad, which you've clearly answered. It's not a fashion and fad. It's an ongoing process.
It's an ongoing process, and it's, you see, the other thing is this, about change, what we need to understand is this: we cannot stop change.
Yep.
No way, right? It's not possible. Every second, something is changing. All right. Let's just look at a general thing like the population of the world. All right. Every second, the population is increasing. And there's no way we can stop that. Today with climate change and all that, weathers are changing all over the world. We can't really stop that. We are managing a lot of things, but change will happen because change is a natural part of evolution. All right. And that is why to understand that tells us that, it will happen whether we like it or not. What we need to do is, find out how can we adapt to it faster, or at least decide if we need to adapt to it, and not just be taken along that path of change. Sometimes, not all change we need to adapt to it. We need to decide what are the things we want to change with, what are the change that, we don't want to change with, but it can only happen once we are aware of what the change is, right?
Yeah. True, very true. Now, if we're talking about consciously changing consciously, practically, how would someone apply this into their life on a day-to-day basis, especially in the scenario which we're currently in?
Yep.
How would one do that?
So it goes back to being aware again, bringing it to the awareness. I think, okay, let's just use the example again of the pandemic that's going on, all right?
Okay.
So let's just say, as a business owner, all right, maybe you've been running a business for the last 5 to 10 years, you're an entrepreneur. And right now, what has happened is that you are now forced to look into your whole business model to see, what's going to happen? Because a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners were affected. Being in the training world, a lot of speakers and trainers were affected when this whole situation hit, because right now there's no traveling. There's no traveling. A lot of organizations have reduced their budgets because, again, it becomes to what's necessary, what's important, what's a priority. And you can't be freely spending a lot of money because you need to have those reserves to make sure we can ride this wave out. Until a vaccine is in place, we can write this out. So as a small entrepreneur or medium entrepreneur, now the question becomes is, hey, how do you survive in a time like this? And then, of course, then how do you thrive in a times like this? How do we adapt to change? And that is where the awareness has to come into place, where the understanding, we've got to ask ourselves, okay, what exactly is this change? And if this change has affected the way I do business, it has affected my livelihood, what must I do next? In order for me to maintain my rice book, to maintain my livelihood. Okay, if I cannot do things the way I used to do it, what must I do then to still continue to earn a good living? Still continue to move past this and thrive in the future. Okay, so it could be you may need additional skills, you may need additional resources, again, you may need additional support. So as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, these are mainly the 3 things: the systems that you have in place, the processes that you have in place, the resources that you have in place. These 3 things may change, and as we have seen, it has to change. So that's the big question becomes, okay, so what then do we need? Okay, so how do we, a practical way to do it, to answer your question, is that we have to ask the right questions. And all measure of awareness comes from the questions that we ask.
Okay.
And if we ask the right questions, we will uncover more about the situation, the environment. We will have more clarity over what's going on. And then the follow-up questions will then lead us to finding the necessary resources. And that is why I love the question, what must I do next? Because it's like this one universal question that can be used at any point of time, because it just points us in the direction of a solution finder. So how do you do it practically? Maybe in the beginning, you need to print these words out big. What must I do next?
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
And just stick it somewhere. Have
Yeah.
it on your phone if you have to, as a wallpaper. And you need to see it in the beginning, because again, we are all creatures of habit, right?
Yeah.
We have got used to thinking a certain way, to doing things a certain way. Now to make that change, even if it's asking a simple question, that means we need to step out of our comfort zone to do something in a way that we are not quite used to doing. So to form that habit, we are going to need a lot of reminders, because if not, what happens? We go back to how it used to be, even in the way that we think. So have a lot of reminders. What must I do next? And the more we see it, the more it gets ingrained within us that, hey, this is the new way of thinking that we want. This is that new form of question that we want to ask. Over time, guess what? Then it becomes an unconscious process where we now do without thinking, where it becomes muscle memory. So I think a great model to look at for this is actually the conscious competence learning theory. You can Google this, you can look this up. It's called the conscious competence learning theory, or simply put, the 4 stages of learning. And it talks about how we learn. How do we move from not knowing something towards achieving mastery? And there's only 4 steps. There's unconscious incompetence, meaning I don't know what I don't know. There's conscious incompetence. I now know what I don't know.
Yep.
There is conscious competence, which is now I can do what I've just learned. And the last step is unconscious competence, which is I can now do it without thinking. It's muscle memory. It's that stage of it's the stage of mastery. All learning only begins at stage 2, which is conscious incompetence. I can only learn something when I know what I don't know. If not, we are just stuck at unconscious incompetence, where we're at this place where ignorance is bliss in essence, where we don't know, right? So how can we add value? But the problem with that is, if the world around us is changing and we are being ignorant about it, not realizing that it is a change that is here to stay, then what happens is that we get caught in this situation where we are forced to change much later in time. And now what happens is that we are playing catch up. We are no longer leading the pack, we are playing catch up with change. And a lot of times when we play catch up with change, what we realize is that the moment we have caught up and things seem stable, guess what? It's time to change again. Because, we're always playing catch up. Then we realize, hey, something else has changed. Oh man, now I need to catch up with this new change. So that is the importance of being aware of what changes and changing with or changing consciously.
So changing consciously. So what I'm hearing from all of this is, before even if we come to this part of changing consciously, is you need to raise your awareness.
Of course. Absolutely.
And how does one raise their awareness in your experience on what you have worked with clients, what you've done for yourself? And I've seen there's a number of changes which you've done for your own business in the recent months. How does one raise their awareness? Because there are times people are just not aware.
Okay. You've got to have an inquisitive mindset. You've got to be very inquisitive, and you've got to be very curious. You've got to make it a habit to learn what you are not sure of.
Okay.
I'll give you a simple example, and not just taking things at face value, thinking that, hey, you know what, I understand what it means. I think the question really is, do I really understand what it means? Say, for example, again, we'll just use what's going on now currently with the whole virus situation. Sure, we are aware that the pandemic is called COVID-19, which stands for coronavirus. We are aware that governments are asking us to put on a mask. We are aware that that health ministries are asking us to keep our distance from people. But are we really aware of how the virus works? Are we really aware of how does the virus transmit? Are we really aware if this is just happening to COVID, or are there any other viruses that act and behave the same way, but just maybe not as widespread, you know? Because the reality of things is this: some of us may be aware, but there's also a lot of people who are not very aware. And this is when they get caught up with conspiracy theories, you know, and freedom rights, and not wanting to wear masks because, you know, it's their right not to wear a mask, not realizing that this is beyond just self, it's affecting us. You know? So I think this is the kind of thing that we've got to always ask ourselves. To have an inquisitive mindset, or to be really curious, is to once again be that child that's always asking why. You know, and children teach us a lot of valuable lessons in life when it comes to learning. And one of the best questions a child asks is always why. You know, of course, as adults, I think we can ask questions much better.
Yeah.
But why is that simplest form of curiosity or being inquisitive? To know why is something the way it is, you know, to challenge what we know, you know, and that will open up our mind. All right. So I think it's just that it's to open our mind to explore possibilities. But we have to do this again, once again, consciously. It's a habit that we need to create. And we have to start small somewhere. For example, if you're reading an article, okay, how many of us actually have a dictionary beside us when we're reading an article or a book, you know? And in this day and age, there should be no excuse to not have a dictionary because we have our smartphones with us.
Yes.
You know, we get Oxford Dictionary, we get the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Hey, we even can get the Scrabble Dictionary if we want online, you know, to check out words. And the reason I ask this is because, you know, I guarantee you, no matter how good we think our command of the language is, when we are reading an article or a book itself, we are skipping past a lot of words, thinking that we understand what they are, but we don't really know what it means.
Yeah.
You know? So when we look at words, let's just say, such as capitalism, consumerism, do we really understand what is capitalism? I mean, we've heard this word many times over, that's for sure. Consumerism, we've heard this word many times over.
Yes.
But do we really know what is capitalism? Do we really know what is consumerism? Do we know what is the Industrial Revolution? What does it really mean? You know? And this is when I think we've got to really force ourselves in the beginning to use, you know, a simple thing that I do is I either highlight something that I don't quite understand, that I want to learn a little bit more, even though I've heard that word a million times, you know, or I quickly write it down on a little notepad, you know, so that I can then Google it. Of course, the best thing to do is to pick up the phone right away and look for the meaning of that word itself and to understand it a little bit more. Okay, before the start of this whole interview, you know, I know our topic was about adapting to change consciously. And one of the things that I did was just before this interview, I looked once again at the definition of the word conscious, because again, hey, I've heard this word, I've used this word many times, but you know what, let me just remind myself of the actual meaning of the word. And that is why when you asked that question just now, I could give you the meaning quite fast, because I just looked at it just now to reinforce that understanding of that word. You know, this is a habit, okay? When we start small and we start forming habits like this, where we want to question what we think we know, that is when we start training ourselves to have this mindset to always start asking the right questions and not to take things at face value. So if change is happening to us, you know, automatically that question kicks in that, okay, so what is this change? How can I be more aware of what's going on? And how can I be aware of what must I do next? What must I do next? I think this is the golden question.
I like that. What shall I do next? What should I do next? I really like that. Because when you said that, like you said, the first thing came in my mind was have it in a big image, put it in front of you, put it on your phone. It just reminds you and gets you back into the now moment so you can move forward. Funnily enough, this morning, I have a habit in the morning to listen. So I usually have a little bit of meditation and I'll just listen to something thought-provoking for the day. And strangely enough, it was talking about consciousness, which was very, and I said, oh, I got to, let's see if I can relate this with Jit during the interview. And one of the things which came up in that talk was everyone is at a different conscious level.
Yep.
Everyone is at different levels. And it all depends on the beliefs and experiences and the conditionings which we have. And because of that, we consider one person not being conscious and another being conscious. Isn't that wrong for us to label that one person is conscious and the other's not conscious?
Yep. In my opinion, yes. Simply because, again, different level of consciousness simply means different levels of awareness.
Yeah.
You know, some may be more aware than others, but that does not necessarily mean that the person who is less aware is less aware about everything, because they could be more aware about a certain aspect than the other person. And this is where I think that inquisitive or curiositive mindset, that wanting to learn, you know, will go a long way, because then we can start even looking at, hey, why is it that, hey, I feel I'm more aware, you know, is there any truth to it? And if there is, if I am aware of what's going on more than, let's just say, you, okay, why is that? Is that because I read more, I ask more questions, you know, I'm more invested with what's going on, you know, because it relates to me directly, you know, or are my values, are my beliefs, are my culture, you know, my upbringing different, you know, because that again gives us an understanding in the event if we do want to help someone be more aware. And again, this comes back to if that person wants help in the first place.
Yep.
Okay, because change can only happen if we truly want to change, right? And for us just to force change upon others makes us no different from the people who are trying to force change upon us.
Very true.
So coming back to what you mentioned just now, I think judgments such as, you know, hey, this person is less aware than me, I think it's got to be really looked into a particular aspect or particular example, you know, because certain examples, you know, I think it is quite true. I may be more aware than you, you know, but to put it as a general statement, you know, I think it could be very wrong, because unless we really know that person really isn't aware, which I think it's quite hard to establish.
Okay. So you got your awareness, you got being conscious. Then next thing is, what do you do with this next? Okay, I'm aware.
Yeah.
I've got the consciousness.
Yeah.
What's next now? What should I do next? Like you say, what shall I do next?
Okay. So adapting to change consciously, right? Okay. So what I've got here is this, all right? So to adapt to change consciously, first you have to be aware of what that change is. Okay. Yep. So that's step number one. You have to be aware. And you can do that by asking the right questions. Okay. Next, once you know what that change is, the next step is you have to sync up with change. To sync up with change simply means now you need to have a plan, you need to have a strategy that's going to allow you to move from where you are to where you want to be, right? From where you are to where you want to be. So if the change in place is disrupting the way that you are doing things on a daily basis, and you have a vision of where you want to, or how you want to do things, let's just say 2 weeks from now. So now you've got to start working your way from where you are to 2 weeks from now to sync up with this change. So example again, speaking and training, a lot of people were caught off guard, not being able to fly, not getting these engagements overseas anymore. A lot of speakers and trainers had to really, in the shortest possible of time, go virtual. You know, virtual training, virtual speaking has been happening for many years already.
Yes.
But it was never a necessity for everyone to jump on board with change. So everyone always waited for that magical day called tomorrow to get that systems in place. You know, but when change is forced upon you, you suddenly realize that, hey, you know what? Tomorrow has come. You know, and now you're forced. So in that shortest period of time, suddenly everyone had this goal that within 2 weeks, I need all my systems running. Okay, so now comes, okay, how do I sync up with change? That means what skills do I need? What resources do I need? So if I'm going to go virtual, okay, what does it take to go virtual? Do I have the right camera? Okay, now I've got to do some research. I've got to find out what's going to be the best cameras for a virtual setting. Do I have computers that can support the bandwidth? Do I have fast enough internet? Do I have lighting? Do I have good sound? Do I have got my green screens? Okay, so these are all the technical aspects. And then the next question becomes, hey, do I have the skill to run something virtually? I'm so used to doing training and speaking for the last 20, 30 years. I've never done anything virtually before. Do I know how to engage the audience, engage the participants, virtually? Do I know how to run breakout sessions, run activities virtually? Okay, and I will tell you right now, a lot of people don't know how to do it. I mean, I don't know how to do it as well, but then, you've got to learn. So now comes the question, where do I learn from? Who can I learn it from, and what resources can I acquire to learn from? Is it through reading books? Is it through reading articles? Or is it through watching videos on YouTube on how to run virtual training sessions? Do I need to sign up for a seminar? Do I need to get certified by a proper certifying body? Because what's happened is that now everyone is a certifying body for virtual programs. I don't know, so maybe it's just a new trend. So we want to do some research to make sure we acquire the right skills. So this is what syncing up with change really means. It means coming up with this plan and moving with this plan to take you from where you are to where you want to be. So it's no different from a goal setting plan that we often speak about when it's about success strategies. Set a goal.
Yep.
Okay. Now find out how to move from point A to point B. Every step you take is one step closer to the goal. And along the way, you've got to acquire new skills. You've got to acquire new resources. Again, you have to reevaluate every step of the way. And then you've got to do a nice check to see if you're on track, how close you are, how far you're at. So this is all part of the plan. So this is what syncing up with change means, all right? Acquiring the resources, acquiring the skills, and then moving forward. Right. So step number 1 is being aware. Step number 2 is syncing up. There is a third step, because again, you want to also prep yourself for the future, which means once you have synced up with change, now you also want to be in a position to lead change. Okay. And what does leading change mean? Leading change simply means you've got to start having visions of what the future could be. You've got to start being or adopting this mindset of a visionary. And a visionary is simply someone who thinks about what may happen next to future-proof the way you are doing things. Because if you are content, or if you are happy with just syncing up with change, then what might happen is you might also be in a position where you're always just playing catch up. Because when change happens, okay, you're very quick to adapt to change. But you're not thinking about future-proofing. Can future-proofing be 100%? I would once again say no, because nothing is ever 100%, right? When it comes to change. But hey, at least if you've got about 70%, ready for something that might happen, guess what? That will put you in a better position. Right. So how do you be a visionary? That means, how do you think and plan about the future? Okay. My simple formula for being a visionary is just this. You got to have both hindsight and foresight.
Okay.
Okay. Hindsight meaning we must know where we came from. That means this is where the past, that rear view mirror on the car, that metaphor, we got to know, because we learn through always accumulating wisdom from past experiences.
You froze there for a while. Okay. Could you start again 1 minute? You froze there for a while.
Yeah, no worries. So saying to be a visionary, we need both hindsight and foresight. Hindsight is a gain from it that we learned from this experience, what positive learnings, wow, how can past experiences, okay, and then coupling that with foresight. How do we have foresight? Okay, we need to have an active imagination. This is where we've got to bring out the inner child in us once again. We got to have this active imagination, and we've got to be open to exploring all possibilities, no boundaries. Because again, we are looking at a future that may or may not happen. So we cannot be setting boundaries and limits to what we are used to. So with hindsight and foresight, this is how we can be more of a visionary for what is to come, and then start planning for this from an early stage. Okay, say for example, the trainer or the speaker who started investing in systems, in getting systems in place for online training programs and virtual training and speaking 5 years ago. This person was doing it because of foresight.
Yes.
Okay. While the entire industry was still very comfortable doing things face to face,
Yes.
this small group of people who were already doing things virtually 5 years ago were doing it because of foresight. But here's the thing about foresight. Okay. Foresight is only often rewarded in hindsight. Meaning at the point of time, this person or this group of people were the odd ones out.
Yep.
But right now, they've become the gold standard.
Yes.
Where people look at them and say, hey, that was very smart of you to plan this 5 years ahead. You're such a visionary. And the reality is this, right? It's just about leading change or playing catch up. So hindsight is learning from the past, foresight is preparing for the future, and the person foresight is often only recognized or rewarded in hindsight.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the things which I have noticed, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, is a lot of people, they want to adapt to change, and we're talking about online stuff over here. It's not just about your trainers and speakers, it's other businesses as well.
Yep.
And suddenly all of these people want to go online without even thinking what they're doing and losing out on a lot of money. So yes, I need to change. There's no denying about it and being conscious about it, but still people are going in there and just jumping into it without seeing where they're going and losing money or falling into scams. So how does one ensure what they are looking at, what they're going to go forward for is something they've rationalized it? There is some logic behind it rather than because everyone's doing it, I'm going to do it as well.
Yep. So I think this is where learning comes first, again, not taking everything at face value just because everyone is doing it, I want to do it too. There's nothing wrong in wanting to do something, but I think the better way is to learn how to do it well. Okay, say for example, we spoke about YouTube just now, okay, and we spoke about the Ideas and Inspiration YouTube channel, which has been around for the last 2 years. Okay, so 2 years ago, I started it, and in the last 2 years, we've been slowly building it up. It took 18 months, okay, for the channel to really go viral. And for that 18 months, if I remember correctly, for the 18 months, I think I had about 300 or 400 subscribers. And that's about it, for 18 months.
I just remember one time you calling me saying, Rohit, you haven't subscribed. I need to reach the 100 mark. Can you be the 100th person?
Exactly. So for 18 months, right, it was about 300 subscribers. But we still had to do everything the right way. Use quality content, build that subscribers organically, do the awareness, do the outreach to share with more people. There are no shortcuts. Okay? But it was good that I started it early because when the channel went viral, when it erupted and it started getting a lot of traction because one video went viral followed by the second video, and the next thing I know, subscribers were just coming in because more people knew about the channel after 18 months. And shortly after that, like 3 months after that or 4 months after that, the entire world went into lockdown. But guess what? People were still watching YouTube because people had nothing to do now while staying at home on lockdown. So it worked out in my favor in that essence. But what I'm trying to put across is that it took time. And it took a lot of discipline to keep doing the right things because there is a way there is a right way to make your channel really earn a good revenue on YouTube. Okay, which means you've got to build quality subscribers, people who want to consume your content. Okay, so what has happened when the world went into lockdown and people realized that, hey, you know what, we've got to shift online as well. We've got to earn revenue online as well. So for the past 7 months, I've been earning all my revenue from YouTube. I've been earning all my revenue from YouTube, and it's good earnings, on YouTube. So people realize that, hey, you know what, there's got to be a better way of doing things in case, we don't recover from what's going on in the next 3 months or 6 months, or even worse, what if something like this happens again 2 years from now? So people start realizing that, hey, going digital is a good way, whether it's selling programs online, or creating videos on YouTube to become a YouTube content creator. So now everyone wants to become a content creator because they see the potential of earning online. Problem is, a group of people also don't want to invest the time to learn how to do things the right way. So now they're invested in creating content without realizing that the content that they're creating is not going to work on the YouTube world. And I run some talks at times as well, teaching people how to create quality content for YouTube. And one of the things I tell people is this, there can be many different reasons why you want to start a YouTube channel. It could be for monetization, like what we are doing right now with Ideas and Inspiration. We earn revenue through views. Every time someone watches a video, we earn a small amount through it. It could be for monetization. It could be to share knowledge and content, to add value to people's life. It could be for brand positioning, or it could be for sales and marketing. It could be for brand awareness. It could be for fun, or it could be for self-glorification, where you just want to talk about yourself and nothing more than yourself. But the reality is this, right? Any one of these. Okay, so are we stuck?
We're now unstuck again. You
Okay,
can say.
Yeah, so it's not wrong because any one of these reasons is okay. But if you want to start a channel to earn revenue from it, then my advice to you is this: make sure your content is about adding value and sharing knowledge. Because if your content is about self-glorification, guess what? No one's going to watch it except you, man. And that's the reality of things. If your content is about selling someone something, if you're starting a channel and you mask your content, and then at the end of it, you're actually selling them something, whether you're selling them a service, a product, guess what? People are going to realize that, okay, so this was the whole point. This was the agenda for this video. It's a sales pitch. There may be a few people who will buy what you're selling. But if that is your goal to sell, then it's all well and good. But if your goal is to earn to add revenues, then guess what? You're not going to build a large following. So now if you want to earn good revenue from advertisers on YouTube, your content has got to be about really sharing knowledge or educating people. That's what I mean by quality content. No sales page, no marketing page, no self-glorification, no doing things just for the fun of it. You've got to have a proper system in place. You've got to have a proper plan of how you're going to create a content. So how do I know all this? I watch a lot of videos on YouTube about this. I read a lot of articles about it. I talked to a lot of content creators, people who came before me, who are doing much better than me, and just pick their brains and ask them, what are the best practices? I often don't set out to learn from people who say they know, but don't show that they know.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people who say they know, but don't show that they know. People who want to teach you how to get 1,000 subscribers. If you look at their YouTube channel, they've only got 100 subscribers. People who want to tell you that, I've got influence all over the world. I've spoken to thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people. but every one of their video only has 10 views. To me, it's like, you know what? I want to learn from people who have actually done it. You know why? Because that gives me that confidence that, the time that I'm going to use is really going to be on that right track. And so that's generally what I look out for when I want to learn. I look at, hey, at practitioners. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. I want to learn from practitioners. So because that helps me cut the learning curve. So instead of just looking at, okay, what everyone is doing and trying to apply everything, I think it's good to see what everyone is doing, because there must be a reason why everyone is doing it. There must be some truth to why everyone is doing something, because there must be potential there. And then it's about taking a closer look into whether there's an actual potential. And if there is, who and where am I going to learn how to do it from if I don't have the right skills? If I've tried doing it and I'm not getting the kind of results that I hope to have got, who must I learn from, or where can I learn it from? Again, it all comes back to questions.
It's interesting you talk about, and I see the adapting of change consciously on what you've done with ideas and inspiration, because yes, you were doing the live talks, wonderful. And then I started noticing one of the things you did was started doing some training videos. So from your networking, and now what's happened with what's going on, you've expanded it, where you just recently did this video on, and I love the posing pictures you had, off-site with all of you standing like that, the back crew with a UFC trainer, about 9 minutes exercise. And that's amazing how you adapted it. What made you think about it? Just here's me doing stuff on the stage and training, and now you're going to something which is, it's got to do with development, but from a different way.
Yeah. Well, okay, I think the first thing is this. I've always had this thing where it's never about me. So it was never about the spotlight, the limelight, having to be that person to be the only one that empowers people or helps people. And I see a lot of value in people itself, in helping other people. So of course, when the channel first started out, it was all about inspirational and educational content, inspiring people. So it was all about the mindset, but in recent times, I wanted to bring a more holistic approach to it, to make it more complete, because there is the mind and there is also the body. Okay? And again, with what's going on now, a lot of people are spending more time at home. Working from home is going to become the new norm, even when things get better. Big part of the workforce is going to be working from home, because what was always believed to be impossible has now been shown that it is possible. A lot of organizations who refuse to allow the workforce to work from home before were forced to allow their staff to work from home. But in the process have realized, hey, you know what? Productivity has improved, because people are no longer spending a lot of time traveling to work and back. People are more comfortable at home. They spend more quality time at work, and also more quality time at home. And overheads also can be reduced, because now organizations don't need that big offices anymore. They can scale down on all these things. So, this will be the new norm. Okay. So looking at this, I asked myself, hey, if people are going to be spending more time at home, and especially in times of economic crisis as well, where people are going to be more, they want to take care of their money more. And there's nothing wrong with that, So spending a lot of time at the gym may no longer be a luxury that people have, especially if they're going to be home. Hey, what can we now do to make sure that we as a platform that want to empower people are giving people more than just mindset strategies? How about the body as well? So that's why I just started this new simple series called Staying Fit from Home. And we've got one video up so far, and it's called a 9-minute body weight exercise. No equipment, there's no noise. You just 9 minutes, you just follow through. It's real time, the video. So you start the video, There's a little bit of explanation of what's going to happen.
Yep.
And then the exercises start. 10 simple exercises, 40 seconds per exercise, 15 seconds rest, 40 seconds, 15 seconds rest, 40 seconds. And that goes on for 9 minutes. And at the end of 9 minutes, you get a good workout. You sweat it out. You stay fit, you stay healthy. And guess what? It just makes the whole experience more complete. So now it's not just about the mind, it's also about the body.
It's so true. I mean, I saw the video. I think it was posted yesterday, and I saw it, and I was like, let me watch this. And usually when you see these videos, there's too much talking happening and less of the exercise. It was just an intro of what was happening, and it was literally, let's do the exercise. So as a person who's at home, who cannot go to the gym or does not enjoy the gym, you can literally just do the 9 minutes. That's it. Just 9 minutes without any blah, blah, blah. Just do the exercise. I thought it was a very well format. And again, coming back to that adapting to change consciously, it's giving value to the person who's actually watching it. So it was very, very enjoyable. Now, we are coming to the end of the actual interview.
Oh, so it's been an hour?
Yep, it's been an hour, just over an hour. And I know we can keep on going, talking and talking and talking. You have been helping, just a small one, you have been helping your nephews do YouTube videos.
Yeah, just to get them on board as well with YouTube, so that, they also see the potential or the fun of doing it from a very young age. They're 6 and 3, and just to shoot them, to produce videos with them. Of course, it's still a learning process for me, because I get to learn new techniques when it comes to shooting, comes to editing, but it's also having them involved with the process and exposing them to the digital world, from a young age. They are going to go to school soon, and they're going to learn the basic requirements of the education system. From your normal subjects, from your maths to your science to your English, and there's going to be a lot of tests there, and that's going to prepare them academically for the world. If you ask me, is it important? It absolutely is, because the education system still expands the mind, and education is still a solid foundation. But does the education system provide enough in terms of preparing you for the future with life skills? I think there's still a lot of room there to explore into. So this was something that I felt it'll be a fun project that we can do together, and the fun and the thing about that is this, on their channel called the Dave and Rian Show, we've got about five videos now. It's not easy shooting a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And with the last 2 months getting a bit caught up with creating my own content for my channel as well, again looking at what's going to be next, what kind of content are people going to enjoy, I've also taken a little bit of a step back from their channel. I've not produced anything new for their channel in the last 2 months, I would say. And guess what, now I've got 2 kids who are coming up to me every other day and asking me, Uncle Jade, when is our next video going to be up? When are you going to shoot us for our next video? This is what I want to do. I want to do this. I want to do that. So they are coming up with new ideas. They really want to get it done. So, in a way, right? At the age of 6 and 3, they want their videos up. And the elder one even asks me from time to time, how much have my video made? How much money has it made? Because he knows he can monetize it. Well, of course, he doesn't know that his channel is not qualified for monetization yet. We have not received that. But he also knows that, hey, now this is also an option to generate revenue in the future, being a content creator, and there's nothing wrong with being a content creator. So that's the fun thing about it, and I think this is where, again, it's having that awareness. For them, of course, through this project that we did together, that's how they got their awareness of being a YouTube content creator. So thanks for reminding me. Looks like I need to work on a new video for them.
Well, I enjoyed those videos. I really, really enjoyed those videos. I was like, when are the next ones going to come up? I've got a friend over here. He's got a 12-year-old boy who's creating videos as well, content, and it's really interesting. So he did some videos on Shake and Shack burgers, and then he did one on ice cream in space. And
Wow.
he's done another one on what is COVID? All different, small. But he always messages me. He tells his father, "Could you tell Uncle Rohit to check my video out?"
Okay.
You know, and it's interesting that how much interest the person has in actually creating the content. And and the second person is, I know, is your nephew's doing it. So it's interesting to see how conscious they are about getting things out there and sharing how they view things as.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting. On a final note,
sir.
and it's a very easy, this one. How can people contact you? Where can they contact you in regards to ideas and inspiration, or just have a chat with you about content or the work which you do as a whole?
Well, Ideas and Inspiration is there on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type Ideas and Inspiration. Our channel will come out and it should be number one. If you type Ideas and Inspiration, it should come up as the first search. Go there, subscribe to the channel. You can contact me via the channel as well. You can write messages there if you want. We have built a community there. Right, so consume this content. But if you want to reach out to me with any questions that you may have in your content creation journey, feel free to do so. Okay. I'm here to help anyone who wants to be a content creator. There's even a mentorship program that's coming up quite soon. I'm still in the midst of putting it together. And with the things that I generally do in this space, I don't charge. So don't feel like, if you are going to be reaching out, there's going to be a cost involved, there's going to be a sales involved, this and that. Hey, I believe in creating a balance. And I think there's enough people out there selling things, so let me be that balancing force. To just have that yin for the yang, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. So reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. You want to email me? Just drop me an email. It's really easy. It's JIT JIT@jitpuru.com. JIT@jitpuru.com. Just drop me an email, and we can take the conversation from there.
Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate your time for being here. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Rohit.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And thank you everyone on Zoom, on Facebook, and for the people who are going to watch it later. Thank you for being here. Truly appreciate it. See you in the next talk, and bye-bye everyone on Facebook and on Zoom. See you later.
See